If you were forced into a mind-bending mission with an almost guaranteed chance of death, what would you do? A mysterious phenomenon is threatening everyone's lives, and you're about to enter the trippiest area on planet Earth. I'm here to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the Shimmer in Annihilation. This girl is about to embark on a supernatural trip that will change her life forever. Giving a lecture on the history of the cell, this biologist Lena explains how the Earth was created from a single cell, multiplying from 4 billion years ago until it created the universe we know today. That's when she shows her students the visual image of a tumor cell, taken from a young female patient's cervix. Lena informs them that they'll be researching cancer cells in vitro for the coming term. Outside, a student questions Lena on her academic progress before this well-dressed Professor Daniel follows her downstairs, wondering why she hasn't been showing up during their lunch breaks. He invites Lena to a garden party that he and his wife are holding, but she quickly refuses. Daniel consoles the biologist, telling her that she shouldn't feel guilty about their affair. Her husband Cain disappeared a year ago and she still hasn't gotten over it, but Lena insists that she's going to stay home and paint her bedroom. Listening to a romantic song at home, Lena reminisces on when she and Cain were still together. The girl continues painting on the wall when suddenly Cain reappears. She rushes over to hug him, not realizing that this isn't the same man she once knew. Lena tells her husband that she contacted everyone related to his Special Forces mission, but they couldn't find any trace of him. She questions if it was covert, but the man doesn't reveal any specific details of what happened in the year that he was gone. Lena demands to know something about the mission, but her husband says that it doesn't matter. She sits down and grabs the man's hand, asking how he arrived home. Cain vaguely answers that he was outside the house and simply saw her while she was painting. That's when the man admits he's feeling ill, putting down his cup of water with a worrying amount of blood inside of it. Cain is taken into an ambulance as he convulses in front of Lena here. Worried, they spot police tracking the vehicle as they're forced to stop. The police invade the vehicle, dragging Lena and an immobile Cain outside. She suddenly passes out while her husband is wheeled off to an unknown location. Lena wakes up in a prison-like room, getting up to puke in the toilet. A psychiatrist named Ventress walks in to inform her that this is a side effect of the sedative she was given, insisting she sit down. Ventress reveals her job, making Lena question if she's in a psychiatric hospital, but the psychologist refuses to answer any of her questions. Lena insists that she see a lawyer, but is told that won't be needed. Okay, what the hell is going on here? If I was Lena, I wouldn't be blaming myself for freaking out. She's just seen her husband come back after an entire year as a shell of his former self, with something seriously wrong happening to him after going on a mission where it looks like he acquired some insane PTSD. Considering that we've both been forcefully captured by police and drugged up, I wouldn't be so talkative with Ventress here. I don't know what she's planning, and for all we know, she could be trying to take advantage of us. I would use my right to remain silent and avoid answering any of Ventress's questions. In certain court cases, initially speaking up and remaining quiet afterwards can be used against you. After all, we're dealing with a psychologist that knows exactly how to influence human emotion, making it even more suspicious to what Ventress is questioning us about. We need to be aware of the fact that everything in this room could be recorded and videotaped. Lena here already has a connection with Cain and was the one who called emergency services once she realized something was wrong. If we were to think like a conspiracy theorist, the police might have assumed that we were the ones responsible for his condition. Keep it quiet and there won't be any issues. Ventress confronts the girl on her biologist background, moving on to discussing her husband Cain. She asks for details on how he arrived home and if she was told anything about his mission. Lena insists that she knows nothing about what happened. Ventress questions why she was requesting information from his CO, coming to a sudden halt 6 months ago. That's when she informs her that Cain is in the building, but he's in critical condition with organ failure and internal bleeding. Lena begs the lady to tell her if it's due to a virus or something similar, insisting that she can help with her biology background. Looking outside, she finds this otherworldly portal rumbling in the distance. Ventress takes the girl into her office, explaining that they've theorized what this strange anomaly is caused by, stating 3 years ago, when a lighthouse near the national park was surrounded by a phenomenon called the Shimmer. People, animals, and drones have been sent to investigate since its appearance, but no one has ever returned. Now, the Shimmer is slowly expanding, with the anomaly set to reach where they stand in only a few months. That's when Lena suggests that they take a look at the only person who has come back alive. They visit Cain, still comatose from his deadly same mission. Ventress tells her that the man is dying and questions if Lena wants to go home. She refuses, making a choice that will ruin her life forever. That night, she stands on her own as this paramedic, Anya, mentions that she's seen her around and wanted to introduce herself. Anya comforts her and offers to show her off to the other crewmates, walking Lena over to meet this geomorphologist, Cassie, and the physicist, Josie. Lena takes a seat, being offered a beer, while Cassie explains that she's been responsible for testing the magnetic fields around the boundary since it appeared. Anya reveals that she previously tried to join an NGO being founded by Southern Reach 10 months ago. Josie tells her that she's only been here for 2 months after completing a postdoctorate at Cambridge. Moving on to Lena, she informs the girls that she's a biologist from Johns Hopkins University. That's when Anya makes a flirtatious move on Lena, admitting that she's allowed to take a chance under the circumstances they're in. Lena questions what she means by that, with the 3 girls revealing that they're headed into the Shimmer in 6 days' time, with Ventress as their team leader. Southern Reach have previously sent in the military to deal with the Shimmer, so now they're sending in a group of qualified female scientists to see if they can figure out what's going on inside. Lena questions what happens to the soldiers who entered. Anya informs her that they've theorized that the men were killed by something inside, or went crazy and killed each other. Cain was the only person that ever returned, and now he's in a coma. Later, Lena speaks with Ventress, who questions why she didn't mention her relationship with Cain. Lena tells her that it would have complicated things, proceeding to ask why she's going into the Shimmer. Ventress explains that their mission is to find the source of the Shimmer in the lighthouse, collect data, and come back alive. Lena questions why she's really doing this, as Ventress mutters on how she's been assigning teams for months, watching them head inside and never return. Now she wants to go inside and find out what's in there for herself. Hearing this, Lena insists that she join the mission as well, finding out what's inside in order to save her husband. She's briefed by a Southern Reach worker who commends Lena on her bravery, questioning what made her join the mission. The girl admits that she owes Cain, and now she's risking her own life in order to save him. Okay, this is an extremely brave decision to make. Sacrificing yourself for a noble cause is always an A+ in my books, but this is a terribly uninformed decision that's going to soon bite her in the ass. Lena here is acting off of extreme emotion by undergoing a suicide mission that only one person has barely survived from. Her husband Cain returned a shell of his former self, and that means that the Shimmer is holding some deep, dark secrets that are better off left alone. If I were Lena, I would be questioning why this Southern Reach organization hasn't thought of other methods to penetrate the Shimmer without sending endless groups of suckers to go in and die. This obviously hasn't worked, and it looks like a very slim chance that a bunch of scientist nerds would be able to do what many others couldn't. Ventress here mentioned that they've approached the Shimmer by land and sea, but never mentioned attempting to penetrate the phenomenon by air. This is a clear mistake that they should capitalize on if they're looking to increase their chances of succeeding. Southern Reach looks like they have enough money to rent out a helicopter for at least a day so they can fly over the Shimmer and get a better look at what they're dealing with. From there, the girls could either be flown in or parachuted down directly into where the lighthouse is located, avoiding any dangerous animals or environmental challenges they might face inside. Now, we already know that the Shimmer seems to have a strange effect on humans, judging by Cain's change of personality upon returning to the normal world. Ventress mentioned that the Shimmer is expanding slowly, with it reaching their headquarters within a few months' time. This gives us time to experiment with the supernatural phenomenon. Mice are known to have around 97.5% of working DNA identical to humans, and have been used in countless scientific studies to test out new drugs and analyze genetic diseases. Now, what does this have to do with the Shimmer? This might sound extremely simple, but it seems like Southern Reach hasn't thought of it just yet. If I was Lena, I would propose to the boss lady that we tie a rope around a group of mice, throwing them into the Shimmer for a couple of minutes, and then pulling the rodents out. By doing this, we can then take the affected mice back to the lab for experimentation, analyzing the changes in DNA that might have occurred from the minutes that they were stuck in the Shimmer. This would give us a better idea of what we're dealing with, what changes in the DNA when a human enters, and how we might be able to combat it. Southern Reach is going to achieve nothing by repeating the same error over and over without any success. Going even further, with all the technology at this organization's disposal, they never mentioned any possibility of sending missiles down to destroy the lighthouse. Ventress is certain that this is the source of the shimmer, so realistically, no one even needs to enter the phenomenon at all. While this could end up being a costly mistake, it's a whole lot more sensible than sending 5 barely trained scientists with rifles to do what many others could not. The girls arrive right outside of the shimmer as Ventress walks forward, turning back to make sure that they're ready. Entering the portal, they've now officially begun their mission into this mysterious phenomenon. Lena wakes up in a daze, walking out of her small tent and finding herself in a lush forest environment, spotting her teammates dividing their food rations. Lena tells the group that she has no memory of setting up camp. Ventress reveals that they've all forgotten what happened, but analyzes that it's been 3 to 4 days based on their food inventory levels. Lena refuses to believe what she's being told as Josie brings out their communication equipment, informing them that it's working just fine along with the rest of their electronics. However, they can't send any signals outside of the shimmer. Josie takes out a compass to show that it's not working and they have no idea where they are. Cassie reminds them that this is still the state park. All they need to do is head south, reaching the ocean, following the shoreline until they end up at the perimeter. Josie questions where south is, with Cassie informing them that they need to point the hour hand at the sun, splitting the difference between the hour hand and 12 to find the correct direction. Ventress scolds them for expecting the communications equipment to work, reminding the girls that they should have expected this to happen with 3 years of missions without any word from those who entered the shimmer. She orders them to pack their things and get moving, unaware of the crazy events that are about to take place. Okay, this situation is confusing as hell, and we're going to need a lot of preparation if this group hopes to survive in an environment never before seen to mankind. This is a seriously psychedelic experience that's about to get a whole lot more trippy, and these girls need to be properly equipped in order to survive. Now, the first thing we should address is the time distortion that just happened as soon as Lena and her teammates entered the shimmer. We now know that it's been 3 or 4 days since they passed into this other world and they have no way of knowing where they're going. While Cassie has a great idea of figuring out where to head south, a much easier option would be to have one of the girls climb up on one of these massive trees and pinpoint exactly where the shoreline is from there. We've only got a limited supply of rations, and there's no telling what kind of strange animals we could find here that may appear after dark. We can only assume that those who didn't make it out were killed by something or someone, so the group needs to be completely aware of their surroundings before heading any further. However, our best bet of survival is to avoid any conflict with dangerous animals. Based on what we know about these girls' backgrounds, they don't look to have much experience handling firearms, which could prove to be fatal in a life or death situation. Using Cassie's method might be flawed, considering that presumably no one else has reached the lighthouse in the 3 years that the shimmer has been around. We're dealing with a supernatural phenomenon, and we need to keep in mind that anything is possible. Even the lighthouse could be in a completely different location from where it once was before the shimmer appeared. Keep in mind all of the possibilities that may arrive from this catastrophic event, and we may have a better chance of succeeding. The girls continue on their mission, walking through the overgrown forest until they reach this swamp. They decide to check out the hut nearby as Josie comments on the flowers, reminding her of a wedding. Lena comments on how strange it is that the flowers look like different species, even though they're growing from the same branch structure, as if they're continuously mutating. The girls continue inspecting their surroundings as Anya finds a boat they can use to traverse the swamp. Josie here walks out of the hut, informing the others that it's been long abandoned, when suddenly she's pulled back inside. The girls chase her into the hut and find her being pulled into the water as she complains that something is attached to her bag. The others run in to fish her out, with no idea of who or what attacked Josie. They sit the girl outside when a large splash appears from beside the hut, readying their weapons as a giant alligator swims towards them. It continues to move closer while the girls panic, and Anya here runs out of ammo. Lena fires off multiple rounds at the animal, brutally killing it before anyone gets hurt. She inspects the insides of the alligator and notices from its teeth that the animal shares the same teeth as a shark, containing a mixture of DNA just like the plants they saw earlier. There's something affecting the gene pool, and this supernatural biome is hiding a dark secret. The group makes their way through the swamp in boats when Lena here feels a sharp pain on her arm, assuming that it was from the alligator attack. That's when Cassie questions how the girl learned to shoot, with Lena revealing that she was in the army for 7 years before her academic career. Cassie mentions that she's married and asks the girl if she had a partner herself. Lena explains that she met her first husband in the army, but he died in combat. Cassie admits that she expected her to have a tragic backstory and comments that no normal person would volunteer to enter the Shimmer on their own terms. She explains that Anya is a recovered alcoholic, Josie wears long sleeves to cover her gruesome physical scars, and Ventress has no friends or family as far as she knows. Okay, we've just been attacked by a deadly alligator, and now they're deciding to take boats for a ride through the swamp. This is a terribly misinformed idea because alligators are known to be social creatures which tend to stay in groups. That means multiple deadly animals could be coming our way, and if we're attacked on this boat, we're screwed. Cassie has just told us some important information that may come into use in the near future. Now, we know that this band of innocent scientists isn't as cool and collected as they once seemed. This is a clear indicator that we should be on constant alert with our teammates, as they're definitely not trained or properly equipped to deal with the situation at hand. To be honest, who thought sending in a group of mentally scarred individuals was a good idea? If I were Lena, I might hold a team meeting with the other members, insisting that they follow my lead when it comes to combat situations. After all, this is a large, confusing environment where we now know that anything can attack, even a mixture of two different animals. This could create some terrifying creatures. Just imagine seeing a horse mixed with a shark. Now that would be crazy. Cassie mentions that she's also suffered from tragedy, having a daughter die from leukemia. Lena apologizes for her loss as Anya announces that they found a point of interest. The girls enter this abandoned army fort with Cassie, informing them that this was the old Southern Reach headquarters. They find strange mutations on the wall as Lena realizes it looks strangely similar to malignant tumors. Inside, the group finds beds and bags indicating that someone was once living here. They decide to look around and find heavy weaponry. Lena notices her husband's name sketched on a wall before Ventress informs them that they were soldiers on the last expedition. Josie questions why some of the names are crossed out as Lena explains that the times are for guard duty on the perimeter, ordering her team to do the same. That's when Ventress finds a Ziploc bag displaying a tag for those that follow. She opens it to reveal a memory card which Josie picks up, inserting it into her camera. They find a video showing the soldiers shirtless, with Cain here slicing into another man's stomach, showing a disturbing creature moving inside. It's a terrifying sight, and the girls have just uncovered another terrifying secret of the Shimmer. Anya immediately assumes that the soldiers went insane, but Cassie questions if something was moving inside of him. The paramedic insists that it's from the camera's lighting, arguing with Cassie, who compares it to a worm-like creature inside of the man's body. They follow Ventress into another room, revealing a large, emptied pool with a disturbing image waiting for them inside. The girls find a man's body mixed and matched with the local fauna as if the DNA of both were mixed together. Lena has no idea what could have caused it, while Josie begs them to find a new place to set up camp. But Ventress insists that it's too late to go outside, not realizing that this is going to be their biggest mistake. That night, Lena examines these cells with a worried look on her face as Cassie wakes up, asking if she's discovered anything new. The girl admits that she's getting freaked out by what they've seen as Lena walks out to check on their team leader. She arrives at the guard post where Ventress is keeping a lookout, showing Lena here a map of where they are in relation to the lighthouse. She points out a village southwest called Ville Perdue, which was excavated due to the Shimmer. She insists that they head there tomorrow and questions if the girl is okay after seeing that video, now understanding why she didn't reveal her connection to Cain to the other teammates. Lena confronts Ventress on letting her husband undertake a mission where he knew there was no chance of return, as they're interrupted by an alarming sound coming from the fort border. Cassie rushes down to find that the fence has been torn apart. They ready their weapons for a potential threat, when suddenly Cassie is dragged off by a mysterious monster, as the girls struggle to find out what's going on. They run towards the fence as Cassie's screams fade and she's taken away. This is the first real sign that something is seriously wrong and things are only going to escalate from here on out. Okay, Cassie being dragged away is a perfect example of when some good old firearm training could have come into some use. But these girls panicked, and now one of them is most likely dead because of it. Now, to start on where the group went wrong, we'll need to go back a few steps and address the elephant in the room. Ventress here is a terrible team leader, and she should be working a lot harder to keep the team in check. She's constantly antagonizing the other girls, and barely giving out any information for the others to go off of. This is going to cause distrust in an already paranoid group of girls. Mix that with a supernatural environment full of scary and we have a recipe for disaster. To top it off, copying the guard shifts of the soldiers that were using this as a base was an all-around bad idea. If I were Lena, I would have suggested to our team leader against using this tiny guard post as a lookout, especially when the group only has a single person that may or may not be capable of properly using a firearm. It's insanely stupid when you consider the fact that whoever's guarding is completely out in the open and nearly completely covered in darkness. If everyone was sleeping and Ventress here was attacked by herself, the girls might have no idea what happened until their shift arrived. Not to mention, we're already sleeping in an elevated outpost that would give us a much better grasp of our surroundings, a fortified room to protect ourselves in case of an enemy attack, and a much slimmer chance of being seen. Another mistake they made was forgetting to turn off the lantern as soon as Cassie was being dragged off. Having light reflect straight into our eyes while trying to see something far off in the distance at night is pretty stupid. Maybe it's hard to think in the heat of the moment, but they also forgot to use their night vision goggles when reaching the torn apart fence. The girls simply gave up and guaranteed their teammate a nice, grisly death. The next day, Josie and Anya agree that they should head home now with one of their own now possibly dead and witnessing the terrifying footage of the previous mission. Ventress demands that they continue on to the lighthouse in order to find the true cause of the shimmer. She grabs her things and heads off, letting the others decide if they want to come along. Anya confronts Lena for not speaking up while the girl insists that she's in agreement to leave. However, Lena mentions that they've been traveling for 6 days and the coast is only 2 days away. Suspicious, Anya questions whether she's being tricked into heading into the lighthouse, but Lena insists that it's an easier option to take the coast. They continue following Ventress through the shimmer, finding Cassie's shoe on the ground. Lena decides to check it out alone as she carefully hides behind this bush, peering at 2 strange deer-like creatures that run off after being spotted. Lena finds her teammate's dead body laid down next to this tree, walking back to inform the others of what happened. Later, the group arrives at Ville Perdu, where Ventress announces that they'll be staying the night with only 2 more hours up the coast until reaching the lighthouse. That's when Lena notices human-like structures growing from the ground. Josie mentions that she initially thought the radio waves were being blocked by the shimmer, mentioning that the light waves aren't blocked, they're refracted, taking out her radio to show that the signal is only scrambled. She tells Lena that the leaf she's holding gives humans Hox genes when sequenced. Lena explains that these genes define the physical structure of the human body, and determines that the shimmer is a prism which refracts everything, meaning all DNA is mixing together, creating an otherworldly-like phenomenon which explains these nature-created bodies. They continue into this abandoned house and drop their equipment, taking a rest while Ventress orders them to secure the doors and windows. However, Anya here is beginning to notice that there's something strange growing inside of her hand. That night, Lena wakes up to continue her research, pricking herself to analyze her own cells. Suddenly, she finds the cell splitting into 2. Later, she wakes up to Anya pointing a gun directly in her face, demanding that she speak up. The girls wake up tied to chairs, with Anya dangling a pendant of Cain's face in front of them. She confronts Lena and Ventress on keeping the man's connection with Lena a secret, reminding them that something either killed the previous team or they went crazy and killed each other. She questions if it was a bear that took Cassie, and doesn't trust Lena or Ventress on their word, now knowing that she kept her relationship with Cain a secret. Anya sits down and admits that she can see things moving inside of her hands, breaking down as she questions if the others are going to cut her open just like in the gruesome video. That's when she brings out a knife as the teammates scream for their life. Suddenly, they hear Cassie's voice and Anya storms out of the house, making a terrible mistake. The girls watch this bear-like creature walk inside, speaking in a distinctly human voice and begging for help. Lena insists that they stay still as it pushes its face right in front of Josie. Anya stumbles back into the room, firing at the creature as it brutally pounces on the girl, ripping Anya's jaw off her face. Suddenly, it begins attacking Lena before Josie here shoots it dead, muttering "help me" as the creature falls down. Okay, this entire tragedy could have easily been avoided if Anya here wasn't absolutely insane. As a paramedic, this girl should be a lot more careful. The others were too terrified to think quickly and caused Anya to make a big mistake, which has cost the girl her life. Now, they have one less teammate, and their chances of dying from the shimmer have just increased. Not to mention, they're now going to be scarred for life seeing someone's jaw ripped clean off of Anya's face. The first mistake they made was lying to Anya. We already knew previously that her, Cassie, and Josie have been friends for a while based on their conversation at the Southern Reach headquarters. We should have been aware that the girl was going to be totally unhinged, and her finding out about Cain's situation has completely set her off the deep end. If I was Lena, I would immediately apologize and admit that I was lying about my relationship with Cain, trying my best to reason with the girl. There should be no reason for her to suspect that Lena or Ventress was responsible for getting her friend killed, considering that there was a massive tear in the fence that would be impossible for any human to make. She's not thinking logically, and we need to get through to her before it's too late. Now, when Lena here ordered the group to stay quiet, there could have been another option, which is the complete opposite. The group may have had a better chance of speaking up and attempting to communicate with the bear instead of treating it like a monster. The only person who had a chance to see Cassie's dead body was Lena here. The only part of her dead teammate's body that was eaten was around her throat area, more specifically her voice box. This explains why Bear was able to imitate Cassie's voice because, in a way, the bear shares DNA with their fallen teammate. This might sound like a stretch, but judging by the way that it imitated Cassie's voice, and the knowledge that both nature and human DNA is intertwining to create these strange creatures and objects, we might be able to reach into Cassie's subconscious mind by simply speaking out and letting her know that we still know who she is. Later, Lena finds the team leader packing up, ready to leave. Ventress tells them that they're disintegrating due to the shimmer and they need to reach the lighthouse as soon as possible. That morning, Lena sits down with Josie, insisting that they leave now. The girl asks how long Cain was in the shimmer, with Lena assuming that it was somewhere around a year. Lena confirms that she was right about her refraction theory and informs her that the DNA has already entered her body. Josie comments on how disturbing it was to hear Cassie's voice from the creature last night, assuming that the bear took a part of her DNA as she was killed. That's when she looks towards her arm covered in roots. Josie admits that she doesn't care about finding the lighthouse or fighting the shimmer, walking away into the forest. Lena chases after the girl and loses her in the field of humanoid-like plants. Later, she breaks down realizing that Josie is now gone. Continuing through the shimmer, she ends up at the coastline with no sign of her team leader. Lena finds a series of crystallized trees before reaching the lighthouse. She readies her weapon and walks inside, finding a strange-looking room with this corpse sitting down and a camera pointed in the same direction. Lena takes a look at the recording table, finding footage of the shore which leads into the lighthouse. Cain appears to set up the camera and sits in the same position, giving a lecture admitting that he's forgotten his own identity. Cain tells the camera that his flesh is moving like liquid and now his mind is going crazy. That's when he pulls out a phosphorus grenade, saying that he'll find Lena if he ever makes it out alive before burning to a crisp. Suddenly, the cameraman is revealed to be a doppelganger of Cain. Shocked, Lena looks into this hole in the ground, aiming her rifle and deciding to head inside. She finds a terrifying underground cavern with Ventress here standing calmly, explaining that this is the final phase of their transformation, with her face completely covered. She looks over to Lena and comments on how she wanted to know what was inside the lighthouse. Ventress tells her that something is inside of her that's not human, and only knows that it's going to take over their bodies, fragmenting their bodies into smaller parts until they lose their entire sense of identity. Suddenly, a beam of light explodes out of her body, which flows around the room, causing Ventress to disintegrate and morph into this flowing hole. Mesmerized, Lena stares deeply into it as a drop of blood comes out of her face, drifting into the light and splitting into multiple molecules as it creates this faceless humanoid creature. Shocked, Lena fires off a few rounds before realizing it has no effect. She climbs out of the hole to see that it's teleported, mimicking every single action she takes. Lena takes the camera stand, being struck and knocked down before waking up to see the creature lying down right next to her, continuing to copy everything she does. Sprinting out of the lighthouse, Lena is suffocated by her doppelganger as she loses consciousness, getting bloodied and bruised. She faces herself and turns around, finding a small crack with an incendiary grenade inside, when suddenly, the doppelganger morphs into her human form, allowing Lena to leave. Outside, she watches as the entire lighthouse bursts into flames, destroying the Shimmer along with it. Being interrogated by this Southern Reach worker, he questions what Lena saw inside the Shimmer, assuming that she came into contact with an alien creature. Lena admits that she doesn't know what it was, only that it was mirroring her every move. The worker insists that it must have come here for a reason, but Lena vaguely remarks that it was creating something new. He informs the girl that a team just recently traveled to the lighthouse and found everything burned to a crisp. Taking a sip of water, Lena demands to know what happened with Cain. The worker tells her that his condition stabilized after the Shimmer disappeared. She visits her husband in this enclosed hospital room, walking in and realizing that this isn't the Cain she once knew. He agrees with her statement, asking Lena if she is herself as well, hugging his wife as the two blankly stare with lifeless eyes. If the only way to find out what happened to your partner was to pull a Michael Crichton and go inside an alien world with almost certain death, could you do it? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe, and check out the How to Beat playlist for more videos just like this. And don't forget that from now on, we'll be uploading on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Until next time, have a damn good day.